Welcome again to Dave Kennon's Retirement Revolution, the only program on the radio that could profoundly change the way you view your spending and your savings for the rest of your retirement. Let's jump in today. Today's program, we're going to talk about why there needs to be a revolution. I talk about the retirement revolution every week, and this week I'm going to talk about why so many people are in desperate need of rethinking the way their finances are going to fit together when they retire. Now, what are you talking about, Dave? What are we talking about here? Well, what we're going to talk about this week are 5 reasons why people are having such a difficult time with this whole retirement planning thing. Let me give you an example. I am a financial advisor. Right now we are broadcasting live from my studio here in the Kane Plaza. I sit down with people every week, and I do Social Security classes, I do financial planning classes, I do a lot of educational outreach to the community. But because of that, I talk to a lot of people. And whenever I talk to people, I always ask them this question. I say, is there anything that's keeping you up at night as far as your finances are concerned? Is there anything that you're just saying to yourself, man, this is scaring the heck out of me, right? And when I ask that question, most people come back to me and say, well, yeah, I am worried about something, Dave. What do you think they're worried about? They're worried about outliving their money. The people that I work with, almost all of them are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. They are either about to retire or already retired or going to retire in a couple of years. And almost without fail, almost every single one of them has this deep-seated fear that they're going to run out of money. And if they spend any of their savings, everything's going to fall apart and they're not going to have any money and everything's going to go really bad. When I press them a little bit and ask them, well, what do you mean by everything is going to go bad? Everything's going to go wrong. They kind of hem and they haw and they say, well, you just never know. What if inflation gets really bad, or what if I have a medical expense, or what if, they have all kinds of reasons. And actually in last week's program, we kind of dismissed some of those what if scenarios. If you want to go to my website, you can listen to last week's radio show if you want to learn more about why you don't need to worry about long-term care. You don't need to worry about big medical expenses in retirement. You don't need to worry about inflation or taxes or the stock market. Man, if you don't need to worry about that stuff, that's going to take a load off. So in last week's program, that's what we talked about, and we dismissed a lot of myths that surround that kind of stuff. So this week, again, we're going to talk about why the retirement revolution needs to take place. There are some reasons why people in this country are absolutely terrified of running out of money once they retire. And we're gonna fix up some misconceptions that you may have. From the home front, people that listen to the show, you know that we just got a new dog. We got a new puppy. We finally gave him a name. His name is Teddy. Teddy is a little white Bichon Frise. He's a cute little puppy. We love him. He's actually already a wonderful addition to the family. He loves people, and he kind of never leaves you alone. He's one of these dogs that just follows you around, kind of a lap dog. He's not happy unless he's with people. And luckily, I have a very busy house. I have 4 children, ages 5, 7, 10, and 11. And my wife, doesn't work outside of the house, so somebody's always there for the dog, and it makes for a happy dog. It's a kind of dog that needs to have people around him. So I think we found a good match. Teddy is now a member of the family, and really it's my daughter's dog at the end of the day. My daughter, Sine, it's her dog. It sleeps with her. She takes care of him. So, Sine, you got the dog you wanted. He's an awesome puppy. We're glad he's a part of the family. So I digress. Back to the retirement revolution. Again, I'm spearheading the revolution that is starting in Sarasota. And it's starting to spread. It's starting to spread throughout Florida, and then it's going to spread out throughout the country. And the retirement revolution is very simple. What it says is that many people in their 60s and 70s need to immediately stop saving money, and they need to start spending money. You see, whenever during the course of your life, for a very long period during your working years, it's very important that you save money, right? Hopefully you know this. It's very important to save money, and you build up a savings and you invest it and you get it working for you and you see that savings grow. But the issue where the issue shows up, where the issue happens, is when you get to that point in your life where the savings stops and the spending begins. Let me say that again. There does reach a point in your life for many people where the saving needs to stop and the savings needs to begin. And all I mean by that is, if you never stop saving, you're going to die with a bunch of money. If you never stop saving, you're going to die with a bunch of money. I always talk about my grandfather, who he passed away a couple years ago. He was 89 years old. He was a school teacher. He never made more than $25,000 a year while he was working. He was retired over 30 years. And when he passed away, he had nearly $900,000 in his savings account. And reviewing his records through the years, we found that he had never stopped saving money. Every month throughout his entire retirement, him and his grandmother scrimped and saved and did whatever they could to live on as little money as possible. And then they ended up dying literally with more money than they've ever had in their lives. The madness has to stop. This is your money. You should be the one that's spending it. And like I said, if you're in your 60s and 70s, many people like you listening to this right now need to immediately start spending more money. You need to start spend more money. This is so much fun. The retirement revolution is fun because the retirement revolution is all about living that empowered retired life where you do the things you've been planning on doing, where you do them fearlessly. You don't worry about running out of money. Because once you get educated, once you put a plan together, and once you get your money working for you, you don't need to worry about this stuff anymore. You're just on a track. You have a plan, and you're going to start living on that plan. So the retirement revolution has begun. By the way, I do teach financial planning classes. They're called the Retirement Revolution class. If you would like to attend one of the classes, please go to the website at sarasotaclass.com. That's sarasotaclass.com. You can sign up for the class at that website. I do one a month. It's always the second Tuesday of the month at 6 o'clock in my office in downtown Sarasota. Please sign up sooner than later. They usually sell out relatively quickly. And I would love to have you there. I would love for you to see live and in person Dave Kennon's Retirement Revolution. And I'm going to, in 90 minutes, during that class, give you the information you need to get the most life from your money, to find that perfect balance between spending too much money and spending too little. And like I said, just like my grandfather, just like a lot of people, they end up spending too little, living too small, and end up dying with way too much money. I mean, in my opinion, I think dying with anything with $1 is dying with too much money. And maybe I'm a little extreme when it comes to that. But look, my job as far as my kids go is I'm going to raise them right. I'll help them out with college. Heck, I'll even help them get their first house and help them with the kids, the grandkids. But when I die, deep into my 80s or 90s, I don't need to leave a bunch of money to my kids. That is most certainly not a priority. Money is meant not to be hoarded, but to come in and flow out. Flow in and flow out. And all I'm saying is that personally, I'm working as hard as I can right now. I'm building up my business. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. But when it comes to start spending my savings, I'm going to do it. Without any fear. I'm going to have a blast. My wife and I are going to do all the things we've been talking about doing. I'm only 41 years old, so I got a ways to go before I retire. In fact, I hope I never have to retire because, man, this is a great job. This isn't even a job. This is just something that's a lot of fun for me because I get to encourage you. I get to show you that things are not nearly as bad as the media makes it out to be. I get to encourage you and show you that retiring isn't nearly as stressful and scary as you may think. It's all good news. Everything I have is good news. All the things that you think you need to worry about in retirement, a lot of those things you don't need to worry about. In fact, I saw an interesting statistic this month. This statistic showed, this is from the Kaiser Health Institute, and they did a survey of retired people in this country, and 74% of the people were happy with or satisfied with their financial situation in retirement. So they surveyed thousands and thousands and thousands of retired people, and 74% of them were satisfied with their financial situation. That is remarkable. I think if you ask somebody on the street how many people are satisfied with their finances in retirement, you would guess very, very low. But that's not the case at all. And the reason for that is, there's lots of reasons, but retirement isn't nearly as expensive as you think. In fact, I wrote an article this week on how much does it cost to be retired, period. You know, what's the cost to be retired? And I very simply went through a normal budget of a person. I mean, I do budgets with lots and lots and lots of people. So I get a sense of what it costs to live, so to speak, right? Everybody has, taxes, home insurance, a car payment, electric bill, a cell phone bill, a cable bill. Everyone has basically the same bills. And if you add up all of those bills, and let's just assume you don't have a mortgage at this point, if you add up all of those bills, most people in this town can live really nice on $3,000 to $6,000 a month. In fact, I would go further and say almost everyone, if you have $4,000 or $5,000 coming in per month, you can actually live a relatively active life where you do what you want to do. You do not need $1 million to retire. So again, everything I have is good news. What I talk about every day in my office is good news. We're just going to talk about how today, we're going to talk about the 5 reasons why you may have a difficult time believing what I'm saying. Or maybe I shouldn't. I think what I'm saying probably is logical to you, but there's a deep inside your brain, there's this little voice that's saying, wait a minute, I don't know about all this. Spending my money? That seems reckless. You can't do that. There's this little voice in your brain, and I've noticed this even with some of my clients. No matter how often I explain to them that it's okay to start spending your money once you retire, it's deep. It's deep. So why is it so deeply ingrained in your mind that it's not okay to spend money from your savings once you retire? If you save money specifically for retirement, when you retire, all I suggest to people is don't spend the principal, but absolutely spend the money that the money is making. And for those of you that listen to the show every week, you know that I believe very strongly in the 5% rule, which very simply means you can take out 5% of your account value each year, assuming that you have your money invested in a diversified portfolio of stocks and bonds with at least half of the money in stocks. Because if you have a well-diversified portfolio like that, it should return about 5% per year between now and the end of your life. I can't guarantee that, but if you look throughout modern economic history, that type of portfolio always has done just that. It's returned at least 5% per year. Doesn't do that every year, but on average. And again, that's not my opinion. That's just what the data says. All right, so let's talk about the first reason why there needs to be a revolution, why there's that little voice in your brain saying, oh man, I don't know, Dave, this whole thing is making me stressed. You even talking about spending money is stressing me out. What is going on? Well, the first reason is there's a certain amount of Depression era thinking. And this is none of these things are your fault. It's just that you grew up in a family where your parents were alive during the Great Depression. It's very logical. And their belief system has infected your way of thinking. Going back to the example of my grandfather, he passed away at 89 with $900,000 in his savings account. He was alive during the Great Depression. He grew up in a coal mining town outside of Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh too, by the way, so if you can hear an accent, that's where it's coming from. But he grew up in a way out in the mountains in a coal mining town, one of the hardest hit areas in the country when it came to the Great Depression. And he saw firsthand such economic devastation that we can't even comprehend it. It's not even anything that's on our radar. We're talking about something that happened almost 100 years ago, but it was so traumatic that it was seared into his mind, into my grandparents' minds, and they never could switch. and they could never bring themselves to spend any of the money that they had saved because they had seen people on the brink of starvation. They saw people in desperate situations, and they never wanted to see themselves in the same situation. But the problem is, this is not 1929. This is 2018. You need to adjust your thinking. We are not living in a Great Depression. We're actually living in a somewhat booming economy. This is not the Great Depression. We don't need to have that sort of mentality, because while I can't guarantee that we won't have the Great Depression Part 2 in your lifetime, at a certain point you got to draw a line in the sand and say, look, I'm not going to worry about it. If you go around worrying about the Great Depression happening again, that's not I'm just asking. Don't do that. That's not a good way to live. You don't want to do that. You want to live within the reality that for 90 years in a row here, the economy has worked. Investing in stocks and bonds has worked. The economy has not collapsed. And all I'm saying is there's a certain Depression-era mentality, a scarcity mentality that you have been infected with by your parents, and you just need to change it. That's it. Just recognizing that is what's happening is a big part of the battle. That helps a lot. Okay, the second reason why we need a revolution in this country is that traditional pension plans are a thing of the past. Let's think about this. So one generation ago, again, your parents' generation, many of them went to school, got out of school, went to a job, stayed at the same job their entire lives, and then whenever they retired, they had a nice retirement party, they went home, and the next day, the mailman pulled up to the front of the house and dropped off what? A pension check, right? This pension check was guaranteed to pay out as long as the worker was alive, and oftentimes as long as their spouse was alive. So they had Social Security and a pension. Simple, clean, don't have to worry about it, right? Well, nowadays, it's not like that anymore. The generation retiring right now, the baby boomer generation, the generation that is joining the retirement revolution, is having a problem because, look, you have a 401k, you have an IRA, you have stocks, you have bonds, you have all these financial instruments, and the noise surrounding the subject, holy moly. I mean, how many financial advisors can get on the radio and talk about this stuff? There are so many opinions. It just seems like there's so much out there. My job to help you is to just help you tune out the 95% of the noise that is totally irrelevant and get you focused on the 5% that is relevant. I find that with my clients, with my practice, a lot of times that's what it takes. It's just a matter of helping people tune out the noise. It's not, nowadays in this society, we're not so much having a problem with information. We have plenty of information. Quite frankly, we have too much information. There's this thing called paralysis by analysis, right? If there is too much information and too many opinions, oftentimes people's reaction to that is to just give up and do nothing. Well, that's the absolute worst thing that you can do, because if you join the retirement revolution, you're just going to put together a plan, you're going to get the money working for you, and then you're going to start spending a reasonable amount of money from your retirement accounts each month. That's it. That's it. And again, I do teach classes on this subject live and in person here in downtown Sarasota. Go to sarasotaclass.com. That's sarasotaclass.com to sign up for the next class. It's always the second Tuesday of the month. I do it once a month. And I also have Social Security classes that I teach twice a month. If you're thinking about taking Social Security, please do not take Social Security until you take my class. I've been teaching those classes for about 5 years now. I've had thousands of people go through those classes. It's really helpful. It's going to help you get the most out of Social Security. If you want to sign up for that class, I'm sorry I'm throwing so many websites at you, but if you want to sign up for that class, go to socialsecurityrsvp.com. That's socialsecurityrsvp.com. And again, the financial planning class is sarasotaclass.com. All right, so far we talked about how you have a Depression-era mentality, about how traditional pension plans are a thing of the past. The third reason why there needs to be a revolution is because, look, CDs are not paying 15% anymore, right? If it was 1981, and I was looking this up the other day, Did you know that in 1981, you could get a 3-month CD that paid 15%? Can you imagine that? I mean, if we were living in that kind of environment today, people, if I sat down with somebody or were talking to somebody about their finances, I'd say, go to the bank and put your money in a CD. I mean, holy moly. Why do you need to worry about stocks and bonds when the bank is going to give you a guaranteed interest rate that's double digits? That's incredible. Well, it's not 1981. As you well know, CDs are not paying what they once did. It is great if you're buying a mortgage or buying a house, but it's not great when you're trying to save money or trying to make money on your money. So again, if another reason why there needs to be a retirement revolution, and another reason why there's so much fear and confusion surrounding financial planning and retirement planning, is because it's not as simple as it used to be. You can't put money into a CD like you used to. That would have been great. Which takes us to the fourth reason why there needs to be a revolution in this country. And like I said, the retirement revolution in its purest form is very simply, people are not spending enough money. Many people out there, many people listening right now in their 60s and 70s and even 80s need to be spending more money. Because if you don't spend all of your money, you're going to end up dying with a lot of money. I mean, that sounds kind of obvious, but a lot of people, by the time they realize that they don't need to worry about money, that they're never going to run out of money, they say, wait a minute, Dave, what was I thinking? They're very regretful. Looking back on their life, they could have lived very differently if only they hadn't been worrying about running out of money. Well, I'm here to give you great news. When you join the retirement revolution, you're not going to worry about it anymore because you're going to be armed with information. The known is not nearly as scary as the unknown, and it's just a matter of making the unknown known. What are we making known? Things like, when can you safely retire? How much money can you safely take out of your retirement accounts each month? Where do you put the money when you retire? You know, like, how does all of this stuff work? What things do I actually have to worry about? What is not important? What do I do? I have great news. It's not that complicated. It's not that complicated. I'd encourage you to take my class. Again, go to sarasotaclass.com. That's tremendously powerful. You know what? I don't think we're going to have time for the final two. Man, does this half an hour go fast. We're not going to have time for the final two reasons why there needs to be a revolution. And they're the best two reasons. Well, we're going to have to do it next week. Next week, same time, same place, 10 o'clock, Saturday mornings. Tune in for Dave Kennon's Retirement Revolution. Next week, we're going to go over the last two reasons why there needs to be a retirement revolution. Today, we talked about how there is a certain Depression-era mentality that you're stuck with from your parents. We talked about how traditional pension plans are no longer nearly as popular as they once were. One generation ago, most married couples, at least one of them, would have some sort of pension once they retired. Nowadays, that isn't the case nearly as much. And the third reason is you can't get 15% on a CD anymore. So a lot of people enter into retirement and they're faced with the challenge, or they're faced with the question of, what the heck do I do with my savings once I retire? It can be very scary. It can be very intimidating. But all I have is great news. Go to my website. You can learn all about what I'm talking about. Go to it again, stoplivingscared.com. That's stoplivingscared.com is the website to learn more about me. I'm in downtown Sarasota. If you want to come in and meet me, you can sign up for an appointment online. But that's the show for this week. I look forward to everyone listening again next week. I look forward to the show next week, where we will talk about the final two reasons why we need to have a revolution, a retirement revolution in this country. I hope you learned something this week, and be blessed.